The cool thing is, Alex, we're here today for the Movie Manny podcast. This is crazy. This is like a little bit of a switch around. Last time I was being interviewed by you, so it feels like, okay, now you're in the hot seat. But we're going to just talk about movies. So it's like the Movie Manny podcast. It's not really the Alexx Catano bio, but it's more like Alexx Catano's connection to movies and where did that begin?
Okay.
And where did that begin? Like, where did that spark for movies come from?
Basically, at a young age, honestly. So I would just play movies from Disney, Pixar, particularly. That's where a lot of the movies that I grew up watching started, and I really just enjoyed like going to the movies. And then every time I would like have a lot of love for the movie world, and I even thought like I would be here today like as a movie writer, movie director, something to that extent. Eventually I did switch around and then move into the radio world, but movies has been always something that I'm like always passionate to watch, something to just check out in the meantime.
And what would you say, if you had to think about it, what would it be about movies that kind of entrances you in that way? Like, what kind of sparked your attention from those Disney movies in the beginning? Like, what was it that, especially those in particular, why those?
So I grew up with, like I said, the Pixar movies. The first movie I ever watched in theater was Monsters Inc. They were doing like
Nice.
a rerun of all the Pixar movies before Finding Nemo at the time. So I was able to check out that movie, and I just enjoyed it. And I remember whenever like an animated movie, because like we always grew up with cartoons, SpongeBob and that kind of stuff. So to be able to see like a cartoon on the big screen, that was an experience for me, and I was always like hyped for the Pixar. And then over time, I just kind of grew up into enjoying other cartoons such as DreamWorks, Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon, those movies. But that doesn't take away from other movies. Like I love action. I grew up with the superhero genre. I love a good comedy. I kind of grew to enjoy every kind of genre possible.
Yeah. So you basically, every kind of genre, there's a movie in there that you like somewhere.
Yeah.
So like comedies, like if we were thinking about like one of the earliest comedies that you saw, and I hate putting people on the spot, so don't think, there could be moments of silence on here where you're thinking, because I know sometimes it's hard for me to rack my brain, but is there any comedies that kind of pop out at you that you liked when you were watching movies as a young kid?
I do remember watching this one movie. I used to play it like nonstop all the time, and I always thought like this would actually happen, but School of Rock.
Jack Black and Richard Linklater, the director. Oh my God, that's one of my top ones.
No, yeah. So I would play that nonstop, and I think that was the movie that kind of made me fall in love with not only movies but also music. And
Yeah.
a lot of what I enjoy a lot about the movies that I watch today is the music, and how the music can kind of like take a toll or like take a stand of where movies go, like which direction it goes.
Yeah, no, and especially that movie, because then you have Jack Black doing all the original songs and stuff like that, and just songs that I could still think about now. I'm surprised that movie hasn't been turned into some sort of something else, because it really is. That movie, I remember, like, that's a legit ass freaking just a musical kind of movie that also has that edge, but the comedy, Ned Schneebly.
Yeah.
But was there any kind of, so School of Rock is kind of a movie that you would say is like one of the movies you saw when you were young that was a comedy?
Yeah, I was 4 when it came out, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember seeing that movie in high school with friends. That's crazy. So that is kind of like the beginning of your movie journey.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So when you were watching these animated films, when you were watching School of Rock, were you ever drawing?
I think I started getting into drawing maybe, I want to say middle school, late elementary school, around that time. That's when I started really drawing a lot.
Was your drawing influenced by the animation that you saw?
Sometimes. So the number one cartoon, like I mentioned, was SpongeBob. So I would draw Krabby Patties like nonstop, and people were like, "Man, this guy's obsessed with Krabby Patties."
And I mean, SpongeBob was one of your top shows?
Yeah, it is.
And what about the movie? Were you happy when they put it on the big screen?
Oh yeah, I was thrilled. I was just so hyped. Again, a movie that came out when I was like 4 or 5. Yeah, I remember watching it, and I think I was sad at first because I generally thought like, okay, now that it's in a movie, is this like, are we no longer gonna see it in the cartoon? I still didn't know how that worked yet.
Yeah, yeah. No, but the cartoon went on, right? Even after the movie.
Exactly.
Oh, sick. Okay, okay. And I mean, growing up, was the movie theater something that you went to often, or was it every once in a while kind of thing?
It depends on what movie was coming out.
What would make you want to go to the theater to see a movie?
Definitely just like the thrills, the action side of things, the like something that made you want to like just kind of, I don't want to say turn off your brain and like just have a good time, but like just make you just enjoy, like just have fun. Like it could be an adventure, it could be like I said, a superhero genre movie. It could be anything, but it was just something to like make you just want to go to the movies and just have fun.
But was that something like every single weekend you were thinking like, oh, I'm going to go see a movie? Or was it like maybe once or twice a year that you'd actually go to the theater?
I would go constantly.
Nice.
Yeah. I think what helped is that we lived right next, not that far away from a drive-in. So
Oh, wow.
that made it a lot easier.
So you were seeing a lot of these movies on the drive-in?
With my dad, it was the drive-in. With my mom, it was a lot of going to the movies. I don't know if you remember Ultra Star Theaters.
No, where's that?
So it's no longer around, but like it used to be like what AMC is today.
Oh, okay. And it was here in San Diego?
Yes.
Pre-2010? Because that's when I moved here.
Yeah, around
Okay, okay. Wow. So you would have the drive-in experience with your dad. You'd have the movie experience with your mom. Was there one experience you preferred over the other? Would you prefer being inside the theater, or did you prefer the outside?
So the inside was cool. I think the inside is just traditional for me. That outside drive-in was, it takes me a while to get used to it because you don't know which kind of people you're getting, whether they. The big thing for me is that there would always be like a big ass truck parked right in front of us, right in front of the.
Oh my God! Yeah. So you couldn't see.
Yeah, so it was like I hated it, and also tickets in drive-in sell out faster.
Oh really?
So it was really one of those first come first serve. So I would like yell at my parents like, we gotta go, like let's go.
And then sometimes the audio, right? You'd have to like have good speaker system in your car to really get the impact of that audio.
Yeah, and then you adjust it. But I grew to love it. I believe No Way Home was like the first movie in a while that I saw in the drive-in theater.
Was that recently?
Yeah, No Way Home came out in 2021 of December. So.
And what was No Way Home? Remind me
Spider-Man?
again. Oh, Spider-Man. Yes. Yeah. Oh shit. So you went back to see Spider-Man in that original drive-in, or did you go to a different drive-in?
I went to the original drive-in.
The original. Where's that one at?
South Bay.
Oh, Coronado Avenue?
Yes.
Nice. Hell yeah. That's still standing, right?
No, yeah, it's
That's
been around
so
forever.
fucking dope. Because I know we lost one in Santee
Yes.
or something, but the Coronado one, like, go out and support. Like, if you're listening right now, check what they're playing.
Yeah.
Go this weekend.
Of course.
Right? Yeah, support, because that's an awesome experience. And look, Alex has been going there since he was a kid.
Right.
You know, so it's like you want to be able to like say you went there even as an old man.
Yeah, and what was cool about Spider-Man No Way Home, that was like the first movie I went to go see because it was 2021, and that was like the first movie I went to go see since the pandemic.
Yeah.
And here was the crazy thing. I think there was like talks that like, oh, movie theaters are gonna die down.
Yeah.
And what was crazy is that, like I mentioned earlier, Monsters Inc. was the first movie I saw in theaters. The last movie I saw in 2020 before we shut down was Onward. So it was kind of like crazy that it was like the first and the last Pixar movie.
Both bookended, both the beginning of the fucking COVID shutdown, and then when we were getting back out again, you saw another Pixar picture.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I made that joke. I was like, dang, that is such an odd coincidence that happened to me.
Holy crap. And so you almost went a year, I think we all did, a year plus without even stepping inside of a movie theater. And it did feel pretty dire for theaters. You were almost like, oh my God, is this ever coming back again?
Yeah.
Because things were being released so readily to the streaming that you feel that people might get used to that. That, oh, wow, if a movie comes out and it's immediately on my TV, wouldn't that be better or more convenient? Can't I just pop some popcorn at home and we all could watch the movie together? But I think that is what's scary, is that I don't think that's the best way to watch a movie. I do think those theaters are important. And even though it's become super convenient is not always the best.
No. And I I think that is something that right now studios are learning, because the pandemic kind of taught us like, oh, is it really worth going to the movies at this point? Because are people want to go and watch a movie just to think about it, or do they want to just have a good time at the moment? And I think people are putting together like when is like a convenient time to.
I know. Yeah. It's tricky. It's tricky because I value that theater experience because I don't find the same joy watching it at home, only because I feel that if you're watching a movie in a theater with people you don't know, I don't know. There's something about it you can't replicate at home. There's something about just hearing somebody laugh in the background or laugh at the wrong place, or just, there's or just everybody laugh at the same time. Like it's a great joke and nobody can hold it in. You all laugh and you're like, wow. And then you remember those things about the movie. And sometimes those moments don't happen at home.
Exactly. When I went to go see the Avengers, Endgame and Infinity War, yeah, it doesn't hit as close if you saw this like in a streaming service. It wouldn't have hit.
It doesn't. And that's why I think, I'd be curious do you think in 10 years from now that we'll still have movie theaters? Do you think that'll still be an option?
I believe so. I think they're slowly making a comeback. Recently, Inside Out 2 just came out, and that has just been like a big hit at the box office. And next month, Deadpool and Wolverine is coming out, so I know a lot of people are curious to watch that. So that's also the important thing, is like get people a reason to go to the movie theater, get people excited for something.
Exactly. But does that start with, is that just enough of having just the movie has to be good? Basically, you're saying like basically just make a good movie, or there has to be something else?
It's the marketing. It really is the marketing, because it's just like, oh, why is this here? But if you see constantly posters and Facebook posts and all this stuff, that's what's gonna help people get intrigued and wanting to go to the theater. Like the amount of people that get excited for the movie, I think that is what is helping a lot of things.
But why does a movie like Inside Out do well, but a movie like Furiosa not do as well?
Definitely the reviews.
You think so? Okay.
Reviews.
Where Furiosa was maybe a little bit more mixed?
Yeah, it was mixed. I still haven't seen it. I want to see it, but
what made you hesitate on seeing it?
Cause I had like 4 friends. 2 said it was all right. 2 said it was good. So it was just like, do I want to like?
And also the time. Yeah. It's almost 3 hours.
Yeah, that's another one.
It's another one. So if you start having mixed reviews and it's almost a 3-hour movie, you might be like, well, maybe I'll just kind of skip this one. Mm-hmm. Because that's a lot of investment of time in there. And we've all been in maybe a 2-3-hour movie that we weren't digging so much, and we're just like, oh my God, it could feel like forever, if you're in a movie that you're not digging. But sometimes if a movie is great, it can never be long enough. But I do think that movies should be shorter.
Yeah.
I think that would help a lot with getting people to the theaters and everything. I think, there's a lot of 3-hour epic movies out there that it just doesn't, you're not going to get me in the theater with that,
Right. Like I brought up Endgame. That movie, I believe, was 3 hours.
Yes, but I feel like it's on a different, it's not like a 3-hour drama. That's like 3 hours of just constant entertainment and feast for your eyes. Like,
I was going to say, so it took a while for Marvel to pull a 3-hour movie, but now when it's every movie, then it's just like the spark is gone.
Exactly. I feel you. You know what would make the spark happen again? If they did a great 90-minute, like just a boom, like they made a great comic book movie, but they did it in such a compact thing again, because that would seem novel in a way, because you're right. Every Marvel movie or every DC, it feels like it has to be epic.
Right.
And I don't know if we need 3 hours for every story being told in the chapter of a comic book series, like I love, and not that maybe my attention span has decreased a little bit. I don't know. I've been watching too much TikTok. I don't know, but I mean, it's just like, I started to value more people that really got their editing down to like only show me like the necessary stuff, and they can edit themselves to be like, we could tell this story in 90 minutes. Cause I'm sure you've seen a 3-hour movie where you were like, why was 20 or 40 minutes of that in there? They could have cut it down a little bit.
Right.
So, but getting back on track with the movies and everything, like getting back to like when you were watching movies as a kid, is there any like theater experience that kind of triggers your memory a little bit of saying like, oh my God, I remember seeing this movie in the theater and it was just, either there was a huge applause at the end, or there was some sort of like audience participation where you were like, oh shit, this is not just the usual going to sit down in a movie theater, watch it, and leave. Like, people actually sat up and clapped at the end, or they did something like that out of the ordinary.
So as a kid, nobody ever got up and like clapped. But I will tell you about a movie that I watched when I was 15.
Okay, tell me.
It was called Whiplash.
Oh, yes. Damien Chazelle.
Damien Chazelle.
Chazelle. Yes, the director.
Yes, it was Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, where J.K. Simmons won the Oscar.
Yes. Oh my God, he was such a great teacher. Or like, actually, maybe he was a little bit harsh.
Yeah, he was a hard ass. But everybody was talking about this performance. I think that's what got people invested in that movie. And I remember like everybody kept talking about it. 10 out of 10. It was like one of the greatest movies ever. And I think that's what also helped. Like, people were really criticizing that movie to say one of the all-time classics. And I went to go see it out of curiosity. And man, I was just blown away. I just like cannot like it's it is just such a well acted movie, and the story is just right there. And there's other characters in the movie, but really you just focus on those two.
And that's one of the all-time best endings.
Yeah.
Because I remember being in the theater too, watching Whiplash. Same kind of audience petition. I think that might have been an applause at the end. Because
no, exactly.
But remember, he's like, his fingers are bleeding, and then you're just like, oh shit. And then it ends, and then the audience is just like, stunned.
When he finished that final beat, the credits just roll. But I remember all of us randomly just getting up and clapping. Yeah. And I don't do that. So I'm like, why am I getting up and clapping?
So were you the first one to clap, or were there other people?
Other people got up.
Yeah, no. And it's almost like, because you'd almost clap for like his kind of musical performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you were in his, and it's like the audience became part of his audience in the movie. And it's just like, you felt like, oh my God, you're clapping because it was such a great movie, but also like Miles Teller and, like you said, those two characters really pulled off this whole movie to keep you interested the whole time. And like, it's about them, and they both killed it. Like, you hardly ever see where two actors are both killing it at the same time like that. That's a great standout movie.
Yeah. And up to that point, when I was 15, it was rare for me to go and get the Blu-ray or the DVD. Like, it was rare that I ever do that. So when I got the Whiplash Blu-ray, everybody's like, oh, this is a really good movie, because it's rare that I buy one.
Yeah. Have you bought any since Whiplash?
I bought a couple.
Is there any other movies that are on that Whiplash level for you?
But trying to think. I really enjoyed the Planet of the Apes series.
Okay.
Particularly because that was the first time where I started taking the director side of things serious. I remember people were criticizing Robert Pattinson as Batman.
The Batman.
Yeah, that Batman. Yes. Everybody's like, oh, he's gonna suck. He's just, and I was the only one that was like hyped for it, and it wasn't because of like the actors involved. It was because Matt Reeves, the director of Planet of the Apes, was gonna do this. So I'm like, oh, you guys gotta see these, and then that's gonna get you hooked on the Batman.
And Robert Pattinson had done a lot of roles post Twilight that were actually like legit acting roles, and he worked with legit directors. So I saw a lot of people underestimating them, but I'm like, the people that are underestimating him or criticizing have probably only seen Twilight.
Yeah.
They're not looking at his body of work, that he did after. Him and Kristen Stewart, they were both in Twilight, and they both done a lot of like legit acting roles after their big Twilight thing. But you're right that he was underestimated. But Matt Reeves, the director, did Matt Reeves start with the Planet of the Apes directing?
I think he wrote the first one, and then he directed and wrote the last two.
Oh, which were awesome.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't have anything to do with the Kingdom one, right? That came out recently.
The Kingdom, I think just producing.
Okay. And what has Matt Reeves done since? Like, what is he moving on to after the Planet of the Apes?
I believe he's gonna work on the next Batman movie.
Oh, the next Batman. Okay. No. The Batman 2?
I believe so. Like, I don't know where he's going with this, but like, that was like the first time I ever took like directing serious. It was like, oh, he's directing this, she's directing this. Even recently, Hitman, that's on
Yes.
Netflix.
Yes.
That was directed by Richard Linklater. That's
Exactly.
what hooked me.
Exactly. It's almost like you start looking at the director first as the main hooking point, even more than the actors that are in it. You're like, who's directing this? Because you start realizing the director has such a impact on where the story goes and how the story is told and everything like that. And especially like a Richard Linklater, you could see his thumbprint on certain stuff with dialogue and this and that. And so you were like, okay, Richard Linklater directed School of Rock.
Yeah.
I love that. You're like, oh shit, Hitman. But a director like Richard Linklater, Hitman almost seems very different than School of Rock.
Yeah.
But it's still the same direction, the care, the quality's there, but it feels like almost two different movies.
Yeah, and here's the crazy part. He also directed Boyhood.
Which is one of my all-time top 5 movies all time.
Yeah. And Hitman kind of felt like a combination of both styles, the Boyhood and the School of Rock style.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it has all these different kind of styles that he could pull from.
Exactly.
But he also, I mean, man, like that Boyhood, just filming it over 12 years. I think now because he's talking about Hitman and stuff, he's saying he wants to do another movie and film it over 20 years. Yeah. So he really, gets super in depth with it. And he's from like the Austin, Texas scene. And I remember one of his first movies that he ever directed was a movie called Slacker. And that's the movie that inspired Kevin Smith to make Clerks.
Yeah, that's right.
You get to see all these people influencing each other. And I remember seeing Slacker too. I mean, Slacker is like, he made it on such a low budget, and all it is people talking. Like somebody comes up, they have a conversation, and then the one person leaves, and then you follow one person to another conversation. Like the camera just follows people, and when they're done with the conversation, it follows someone else. And it was such a crazy. I don't think anybody's done it since, but it was such a way to make your mark. And he has like such smart dialogue in his movies, and he's definitely one of the auteur directors that when he makes something, right, I don't care what it is, I'm gonna see it. Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else like that for you? We have Matt Reeves, we have Richard Linklater. Is there anybody else in the Alexx Catano universe that you celebrate?
Let's see. There's a lot. It's crazy. This might be like the most obvious answer for a lot of people, but Tarantino.
Yeah, of course.
Like he's literally building his next movie on being his last movie.
Yeah, and he's sticking his word to it. I mean, he said it a few years ago, right? Nobody really believed him. Like, why are you doing this? But he's always ahead of the curve a little bit, And it's like, oh shit, this makes sense, and he does things his own way. And yeah, it might sound like an answer that we'd all give, because I think Tarantino has inspired us all. You know what I mean? Like he's not underrated at all, but he's like somebody that has had a huge influence on most film fans today. I mean, it was when I was 11 years old, my mom took me to see Pulp Fiction. She didn't know what it was, right, but it changed me. I mean, forever. Oh my God, seeing that in the theater and then going back and finding Reservoir Dogs. And then he puts out Kill Bill. Imagine being, I was like, 13, 14, whatever. And I'm just like, he's putting out this movie? Oh my God, it was insane.
I like that you brought up Kill Bill. My mom's ringtone is actually the whistle.
From yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's what I do. And he picks the best soundtracks, the best music, and I think lately he started composing his own original stuff. But right, I love the needle drops, that he had back in the day with his other movies. Like he's just, Kill Bill. I've loved all his, even Death Proof, everything like that. Hateful Eight, I was a little okay on. Once again, you start making movies 3 hours, and
right,
I get a little much with it. But so of course Tarantino, he's making his next film. It was supposed to be about a movie critic, but then he squashed that. So now we're all kind of still waiting to see what his next movie is going to be about. Is there any other big movie this year that you're kind of anticipating that's supposed to come out in 2024?
This year? Not that I know of. Like, I think I already mentioned Deadpool and Wolverine. I brought up
and that's coming out pretty soon, right? Deadpool 3?
Yeah, next month.
Next month, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy for me because I think after Avengers Endgame, after the pandemic, it was kind of hard to kind of get invested into, like, the franchises.
Yeah.
Bigger, and I think I was more focused on just like the smaller things.
Do you think the comic book movies and franchises might be dwindling down a little bit?
I think they needed like a proper break. I think just continuing, and I think this is an advice that I could give anybody, but when you are making it big, and you've hit like the breaking point, like I think sometimes you just need to pause and just like
reassess and
and
just don't keep just making stuff just to make it and just be like, oh my god, we can't say no to this money kind of thing, right? Because it feels like some of them you start losing the audience because they're like, oh, this movie was just a cash grab. There wasn't really much with it, you know. They didn't put as much effort as they did with, say, like the first Iron Man,
right.
you know, where it's like, oh wow, these are perfect movies, you know. But there was maybe not as much expectations as there is now. Like every movie that comes out, like they feel like they have such a huge audience that they have to appeal to that they forget to be weird sometimes, you know.
Yeah. The biggest movie last year was Barbie, and I remember the director Greta Gerwig, who did she did Lady Bird a couple of years before, and I remember they were talking about her possibly doing a DC movie, a Marvel movie, I can't remember, but she ended up rejecting it because I guess that's another big problem with like big franchises. They have one direction, and then the directors and the writers have a different direction.
Exactly.
So when she said yes to Barbie, I'm like, why'd she say yes to this? So that's what got me into wanting to watch that.
Yeah, because and also it was like such a collaboration because her husband, who was also a director, Noah Baumbach, he's directed some great films. He wrote Barbie. They wrote it together.
Oh.
So and they wrote it during the pandemic together. While everything else was shut down. So they kind of wrote it together and then she directed it and then boom, it became Barbie. And that became bigger than any comic book film. So yeah, she might have turned out a comic book film, but she made like a movie that's like 2 comic book films. It's like billions of dollars and it's not ending anytime soon. Like what a home run that movie was. Whether you like it or not, you know, everybody has a different take on it, but you can't deny like the home run that was hit. Like that doesn't happen every so often, especially with movies these days. It's hard to make an impact like that.
Yeah.
You know, at least in these days. Back in the 90s, early 2000s, like there were real movies that made those huge impacts and there were real kind of movie stars. It does seem like now everything's so fragmented that everybody has their own little niche and everybody loves different things. So it's hard to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm the biggest star in the world. Everybody knows me. Like they don't really make them like that anymore. Like everybody I talk to, they start naming off people and I'm like, who is that? And they're like, oh my God, this person's famous. They have 7.7 million followers and they're da-da-da-da. And it's like, I have no idea who that is. Where I feel like back in the day, when I was growing up, I felt like we all kind of knew who the stars were.
Right.
You know, so it's just different. It's not worse or better. It's just different and it's more fragmented. But it was going to get to my next question for you because, you know, they say they're not making stars anymore like they used to and everything like that. So would you be willing to see a movie that had that starred maybe somebody who was AI generated, you know, but, you know, like say Bruce Willis in Die Hard, you know, that era. What if he was starring in another movie in the future, but they just used that movie star from a different era and put him in the movie?
I don't know about that. I think what helps a lot of people is that they start helping themselves, making a name out of themselves. Most recently, one that I could think of is Sydney Sweeney, who was in Euphoria. Now she's like doing all these big movies. I think it was Anyone But You, this comedy that she did recently.
Okay.
And she's basically just putting herself out there and giving a shot to like whatever she can.
Yeah. But how do you build? I mean, it's just a different way out there because I've never heard of Sydney Sweeney. So that's one of the things where I feel that could just be me. Anybody listening might be like, "How do you not know Sydney Sweeney?" But it just seems like we're all so fragmented into who we think is the biggest stars or who is big to us.
Yeah, I think it's harder now. And in a recent Tarantino interview that I saw, he actually brought up because like Chris Evans is doing a lot of great movies.
Oh yeah, the Knives Out.
Yeah, he did Snowpiercer. He's been doing some great movies, but when you go to see a Chris Evans movies, are you expecting Chris Evans or are you expecting Captain America?
Captain America, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Chris Evans would get me to go to a movie. It's more, I just think when I see Chris Evans, I think Captain America.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of get what he's saying where it's not like Chris Evans put out a new movie and I would be drawn to see that new movie because of Chris Evans.
Right.
I don't know. I would see Captain America. You know, he is Captain America, but what point do you think Tarantino's trying to make with that?
I think he's trying to make a point where we kind of are setting this expectation of who we want in the movie.
Yeah.
whereas like what we're getting in the movie, because there's a lot of great actors who you wouldn't expect to be in certain movies. Like you could see, I'm gonna use Seth Rogen as an example.
Yeah.
He went from Superbad and Knocked Up, and then he did Steve Jobs, which is a complete 180.
Steve, he played the Wozniak, right?
Yes.
His friend. Yeah. And he started directing movies and producing movies. You know, he basically, started as an actor and then became like writing and then doing all those things. And he's basically been a huge success story, I think, in that he's started in one place, but he's kind of seen how the industry works and just started to do things where he had a little bit more control over the project.
Yeah.
You know, because that's getting back to your Greta Gerwig comment. Like, she didn't want to do the comic book movie because there were so many chefs in the kitchen, right?
Right.
You have so many people that love this comic book character that you can't disappoint them, you know? So people are like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it's very hard for somebody to take that, to basically give up all their artistic thing and just let the big corporate machine, you know, they're just a director. They're just another marketing tool. They're not even really asking for that director to put their artistic stamp on a film. They're just like, oh, we just need your name to market this comic book film, you know? So I don't know what's next though, because if comic book movies are taking a pause, or, you know, they're still going to be here, but like them dominating culture is probably going to take a pause. But what fills that void?
A lot of people, I remember even myself, I thought, you know what? I think it's going to be the video game genre. Like Super Mario Bros. Did a success.
Yeah.
What was it? What was the name of that show? Fallout. The Last of. They're doing like a lot of good marketing. Then for every good project, we kind of take a step down with like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. And not comic, but video game movies they've tried that throughout the years, right?
Yeah.
And they've had varying levels of success. Because I remember even the first Super Mario Brothers movie with John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins was not the biggest, you know, thing. And then, you know, there's been other, I think Resident Evil, would you consider that a successful franchise?
Well, they've done a lot, but I don't know how.
Quantity over quality kind of thing.
Because I to this day haven't seen a single one.
Me
of those
neither.
movies.
Me neither. That's what I was asking your opinion.
Yeah.
But the thing in my mind, I'm like, they keep making them, so but they have to be making money or something.
Right.
Somebody's watching these movies.
Exactly.
You know, but
yeah, because Warcraft didn't do so good in the United States, but in Japan it was a huge hit.
See, sometimes we think a movie just because it bombs here that it's bombs, but really there's a global audience out there, kind of thing. So video game movies may take the void going forward. And
I think so.
Yeah, no, and I'm just thinking here. I'm thinking. I'm like, what about watching, when you watch movies at home, do you watch a lot of movies at home?
Yes, I do.
What streaming services do you use?
Netflix. I'm trying to think. HBO Max.
What, is there a reason why you choose HBO Max over Hulu or Netflix? Was it just stuff that you have at home, or was there any decision making that went into it?
It's just stuff that I have at home. It's just kind of like, all right, let's just play what they got here.
But what if there's an exclusive that comes out at Hulu and you see, oh, it's only playing? I'm sure this has happened to you before.
It happens with me more with TV shows, not movies.
Okay, with Hulu. Okay. Where you want to see a TV show and it's exclusively on a streaming service.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Like it's hard to avoid spoilers, but like I'll like wait until like a certain time has passed and they've shown enough episodes where like, okay, I can binge these and then the next two like I can knock out.
But do you have to order the streaming service for a little while, or how do you?
Yeah, I have to order for a while.
Like maybe a month?
Yeah.
So you pay the fee for a month, or maybe do a free trial
Yeah.
for a month and kind of hop around kind of thing. But
exactly.
It's weird because it seems like there's a lot of that too lately where the exclusive comes out and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. And then what's funny is when I do that, I later start scrolling and I'm like, oh, they have this movie? I haven't seen it in a while. And then I'll start playing like certain movie depending on what it is.
Yeah, no, 100%. And do you watch movies? Like, what time of day do you watch movies?
Well, right now with the summer, I've been just mainly in the afternoon.
Kind of afternoon. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Do you fall asleep to movies, or is that never a part of it?
I used to fall asleep watching movies. Now it's funny. I actually listen to podcasts while I try to like go to sleep or something.
In your earphones?
No, like I'll have like my phone right here, and then I'll just like knock.
But when you wake up, are they still talking?
No.
Oh, okay, it turns off. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But that's cool because it's kind of like you're falling asleep to a voice
Right.
kind of thing. So as long as it's a good melodic voice, it kind of helps you kind of fall asleep. So that's cool. It's kind of similar to why we put movies on. Like I need a little bit of background noise,
Right.
you know, so I'm watching something, and then I just kind of fade out. But, you know, so I would say that I have no. So, I mean, so tell me, Alex, what started the Movies with Alex podcast? How did that come along?
It looked like people were slowly coming back to it. So initially, let me backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
I was working with Jazz 88.3 at the time.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I did have a show called Movies with Alex.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Then when the pandemic hit, the studio shut down. They closed down everything.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was kind of like sad. And initially, Catanation Studios was supposed to be what Movies with Alex like looked like.
Oh, okay. But it became Catanation Studios.
Yeah, it became, what it is
Isn't
today,
it?
where
Yeah.
we interview local artists and people in the community.
But sometimes you bring up movies. I've heard you before kind of
Yeah.
try to sprinkle some movie references throughout.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the portion of my show was inspired by movies.
Mm-hmm.
My 100 podcast, if you've heard it, it was me and Addie Spellman. Like, we were both talking. And throughout the show, there was many interviews throughout the show.
Okay.
So that was actually inspired by When Harry Met Sally, where, like, the whole movie was going, but then it will pause to, like, a random couple talking.
Yeah, which is really cool, right?
Yeah.
Really innovative kind of thing.
So that's where that inspiration came from, if people were wondering what that was.
Oh, damn. So a Harry Met Sally reference. You dug way back. That's
Yeah.
a 90s reference. Holy shit. So see, like, you find out these little, what do you call it? Easter eggs
Yeah.
kind of thing about it. But, and it's cool what influences us. You know what I mean? Like, so even though it's a podcast, even though it's an audio thing, you're taking a lot of your cues still from the movies you see kind of thing. And that's Rob Reiner, right? That's another cool director of Harry Met Sally. You Can't Handle the Truth. Right. Remember? If you can bet. Another movie. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I might be biased, but 1994, that's when I saw Pulp Fiction. That was one of my first, I was 11 years old. I was in 1994 to 1999. Those were 5 years of, I was 11 to 15, and those were the best movie years of my life. I have never experienced movies like that because there was a lot of indie movies. There was a lot of just new movies coming out, a lot of really quality movies, and I was in the theater three times a week for my whole childhood. Like, I was in there all the time, and I love that just that 5-year period of movies. It just seems like I'm stuck in that period. Even the movies I watch now and everything, it's just like, yeah, just the best movie theater experiences. And I don't know what changed after 2000, but maybe the DVDs,
right,
came into it or whatever. But I remember that the fact that we couldn't get movies so quickly after they were released made them so much more special. Because Pulp Fiction, I don't know if you remember, it took 3 years for that movie to come out on VHS. Yeah. So you basically, and there was no place to find it. Like, if you really liked a movie, you couldn't Google it. It was pre-internet. Like, there wasn't books out about it. There wasn't a VHS. So it made you crave it so bad because you were like, oh my God, I want to just see a scene again. And then when it was released on VHS, it was almost like you would watch it a million times because you didn't know when you were going to get it again. You remember what it was like to not have it.
Right.
And I don't think you have that now.
Well, I have something funny to share with you.
Yeah.
How did you say that? So for a long time, I used to say my favorite movie of all time was The Karate Kid, 1984.
Yeah.
One of my favorite directors of all time was Tarantino. His popular movie was Pulp Fiction, 1994.
Yeah.
My favorite animated movie of all time was Shrek 2, 2004.
Oh, wow.
And then one of my favorite movies of all time, Whiplash.
2014.
Yeah, 2014.
But wait, this year.
Yeah, it's
something's happening this year.
Exactly.
You haven't seen it yet, but it's coming.
So I've always caught on to that. I'm like, hold on.
Have you seen Inside Out 2?
Oh, yes.
I thought that was great.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I liked it more than the first one.
I did too. I didn't want to say that out because the first one's such a classic. But when I saw it with Ice. We saw it on Saturday. We took Claudia had to go to the Emmys, so we drove her to Desert Hot Springs, and we had nothing to do for 2 hours, so we went to go see Inside Out 2. And plus, it was like air conditioned in there because it was so hot. But I loved it the whole time, and I was like, you know, it had like an emotional ending, and it was like great to see it with my daughter because she had seen the original one, but it's almost like she's like at Riley's age now too. Like she grew up and she's almost like, she's like 12, Riley's like 13, 14, but it was just so, it connected, and it was a cool way of making a sequel, making it kind of the same but different, and updating it, you know, to with new emotions and anxiety, you know, like that anxiety, like it was crazy to be like, I loved how they showed that a little bit of anxiety could be motivating to you,
Right.
like a little bit, you know, but then it showed if you leave it unchecked, oh my God, it could become a tyrant and it could ruin everything, you know? So I thought it had a lot of good messages in that movie.
And I think it was a message that we needed. We live in a world now where like we talk about, and we're very open about mental health and depression and anxiety. So it was just like the perfect movie to come out at the right time. And I think it was a very important that we all needed to see.
Exactly.
And this was definitely like what I want to say was what we needed at the time to kind of get us back into wanting to not only go to the movies, but also hear ourselves.
Exactly. No, I thought it was an important movie, and you might not know it yet, but maybe Inside Out 2 will be that 2024 spot for you. Because it deserves it. It deserves it. I think, you know, it had a big weekend and everything, so I know it's successful, but again, I don't hear enough people talking about it. Like, you know, I think that this movie should be seen, and it's right up there with Inside Out, if not even better.
Right.
You know, so Pixar needed that too.
Yet.
Pixar, you know, we talked about Toy Story 2 on the last podcast we did on We Are Catanation. And Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, these are unbeatable films, you know, and talk about all the ones they had in the past. But it just felt like these last 4 or 5 years, 6 years, it didn't feel like they were knocking it out of the park as much. And I know you can't always be perfect.
Right.
But it felt like Inside Out 2, if it would have been bad, I would have been so disappointed.
Right.
And I felt so good leaving that theater being like, oh, they did a great job with this one. You know, they really put their time into it, and like now I can't wait to see what Pixar does next. Because yes, the only thing that left me a little unsatisfied is that it was a sequel. I love sequels, and we have a lot of them, but I want to get back to challenging themselves to do something original. You know, because could they ever make an Inside Out 1 again? Just totally like, because that was such an imaginative, original plot. You know, like can we value originality again? Will the audience? Coco, exactly. But I feel like that's been a while too.
Yeah.
How many years? Like
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
So a little closer. But yeah, no, that I feel like that was the last great Pixar thing that I saw in theaters, because I don't think Encanto was Pixar.
It wasn't Pixar. I really enjoyed Soul. I love the message. It was during 2020, the pandemic.
And I missed it.
Yeah.
See, I think we all kind of missed some movies in there. It might have been gems that might have been good, but we just were so distracted with everything else.
Right.
Just basically trying to keep everything else going, you know. But movies will never go away. I mean, if movies could survive that pandemic, like, you know, I feel like there's always going to be a place for them, you know. And would you ever do any videos, or do you ever kind of inspire to like create a video?
I would like think about doing like a little movie or something like that. Might as well. I figured like this question would come up eventually, where like people would always ask me what my favorite movie of all time is.
Yeah.
For years I would say Karate Kid.
Okay.
But over time I kind of grew to enjoy more newer movies. So for me, my favorite movie of all time was 2016's Sing Street. It's a very underrated movie that nobody has ever seen.
Yes. It kind of has like a punk influence, like a Clash, like he was playing in a band, right?
Yeah, to impress this girl.
To impress the girl. I remember it being a very, very, very good movie.
Now the reason why that's my favorite movie of all time is that was the movie I wanted to make.
Yeah.
That is exactly like the type of movie that I would have loved to make.
And it does have some School of Rock kind of,
right?
It does feel similar, like, but I feel like they both made it in their own cool ways. Like I remember watching Sing Street. I think I saw it at home, and being pleasantly surprised. Like I didn't know what I was getting to and everything, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is a very sweet movie. Like it has me all like, you know, like I really cared for the characters, and it's hard to get me to care for people, you know, like not to, but just characters that I'm meeting like that. I'm like, oh my God, like I really I remember it being the kids' performance and everything was really awesome.
Yeah, actually, when I was in Jazz 88.3, they were suggesting that I have like a theme song for the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
My theme song was "Drive It Like You Stole It" from Sing Street.
From there, oh shit. Okay, have you ever dropped any needle drops from Sing Street in the Catanation podcast?
So there's two.
Oh,
there's two. The first one is a teaser for like what we were gonna expect for Catanation Studios.
Okay.
So like I showcased like different parts of the city, of City Heights, because that was where initially Catanation Studios was going.
Yeah.
And I was playing Riddle of the Motto in the background.
Oh, okay. From that movie.
Yeah, from that movie.
Oh, sick.
And then I did a podcast called Movies with Alex. That was kind of like the farewell, like love for movies.
Yeah.
And where I would just ask questions about like making movies and stuff like that. And I constantly reference that Sing Street was my favorite movie.
You know, and Sing Street, did you see that at home too?
Yeah, I really wish I saw that in the theater.
Dude, and that just got me thinking. It's like I would love to see that movie screened.
Yeah.
Because that's another movie that I've only seen at home too. That I feel like maybe probably a lot of people caught it late, you know, because it was something that I heard, like, I think there's some reviews got me to see it. I was like, oh wow, you know, and I saw it and I was like really impressed. But movies like that would be so cool to bring back and just be able to see on the big screen, and just to kind of, you know, even have a podcast event around or something, but just to be able to mix that movies with the audio and the podcast would be so cool.
Yeah, and what also made me love that movie so much, it actually reminds me of my actual like favorite like film person, like director, writer. I believe his name was John Carney. He did Home Alone, Pretty in Pink.
Oh yeah,
Breakfast.
John Hughes. Yes. They just had like a Brat Pack documentary on Hulu about movies that he created and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I felt like if Sing Street like came out around that era, it would have been like one of the all-time classics.
100%, because it feels like a throwback to movies that he would have written.
Yeah,
kind of thing, where it has that, just that. It doesn't have to be so cynical. Like, it doesn't have to be like a lot of movies now. They're like, oh, in order for it to be real, it has to be negative and a bad ending and this and that, and it can't be sweet, you know. And it's like sometimes we need that. We need that just because as a human thing, you need to fill up your cup so it makes you, watching a movie like that, I don't think people understand it when I say it. It makes me a better person. I don't know if the right kind of movie fills me with empathy that I just don't forget. Like, it's with me, you know. So that's why movies are just more than entertainment to me, at least good ones like that good storytelling like that. Like it affects you in a way that I think it actually makes you either, you know, a more empathetic person or just able to like see things from different perspectives. Like that's at least why I watch movies and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But was there anything else you wanted to add, Alex? Was there anything coming up this year or anything movie wise that you wanted to kind of?
Well, I mean, I've always dreamt of like working in a movie. I currently work with like some of my closest friends, so we've always bonded over movies. You know, our dream was to work in a movie, and we've even said, so Raymond, Adi, if you guys are watching, you know, our dream was to be in a movie together, the three of us, in some way, shape, or form. We didn't maybe have to star in it, but definitely be a part of it. And like together, like whether one of us was a camera person, the audio person, like it didn't matter. But that is like the biggest dream for me, like at least one movie.
Hell yeah. And especially with that crew.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So it's just about maybe what kind of movie would you want it to be?
That's the crazy part, because we're all different, like different type of people.
So you'd have to be something that you all kind of agree on?
Yeah.
But who would be the writer? Who would write it?
Out of the three, probably... That's hard to like pick because we all have like different brains.
So you'd all do different drafts of it. So it would almost be a collaboration even in the writing process.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, maybe the next time we talk on here, we'll be talking about that.
Yeah.
That would be cool. That'd be cool.
Love that.
And let's not make this the last time that you're on the Movie Manny podcast. Let's make this a recurring thing, because I think that movies are about to change.
No, of course.
You know, and like whenever a movie comes in and that you see it and it excites you, come back on the podcast. Let's talk about it. And then the same with you. If I see a movie in the theater, I'll let you know, and I'll be like, oh my God, go see it. And then basically we can always discuss it on the podcast, you know. And I just want to keep movies alive. They're already alive, but basically just we value them a lot, you know, so talking about it and talking with other people that like movies, you know, I really feel there's some kind of value in it. I feel like there will be, and I feel good talking about it. And I thank you so much for coming on here today and talking about film and your journey and everything like that. And, you know, I would, is there any last words where you're like, oh my God, this is the wisdom that everybody needs to hear because this is going to change their life?
Just definitely just don't lose that creativity mind. If you are really into movies, just enjoy them and probably get inspired. I mean, that's the big goal, is to get inspired, and a lot of it just comes from the creativity of what other people have done, like not just movies, but even in general. Like, you know, me having this podcast, me being this could inspire what I might be writing about next.
Exactly. It's all kind of connected in a way, but it's all comes from creativity.
Exactly.
The podcast, the movies, anything you do in life. So thank you, Alex. I appreciate you, man. To be continued.
To be continued, yes.
Cool. Ooh, God, I got sweaty there.
Yeah.
How long did we go for? 51 minutes. That's not bad.